name is Connexio. So can the panel of Connexio be brought to the front? Okay, have your mic, and your second starts as soon as you speak the first word.
Thank you, judges. Thank you for the opportunity, Innotribe. We had the opportunity of having some of the senior bankers and some VC help. We came up with these fancy ideas over the first one day, many ideas. The good thing about having senior guys is they shot up all the fancy ones. They just said, we need something to start the whole thing that will basically make you cash flow neutral, right? And then start to build on that cash flow neutral company, and then just keep going forward. So we said, we quickly go on to the idea. Today, the way Swift operates is it is a communication cloud between banks, right? So we said, from a communication cloud, can you create something called a service cloud, something that will provide services to the banks to begin with, and then to consumers at a later stage of time, right? So what is that we want to do within the consumer cloud? The first thing that we want to take up is a foundation phase where we want to look at removing targeted key pain points that banks go through today, right? We took up the first one. The first one is every bank today spend at least $100,000 to $500,000 in doing the standard Swift upgrade every year. That is forced on them. They don't have a choice. And you have to do it within a particular day and date, right? Now, how can we remove that pain? So, if I sort of quantify that pain, that is 8,000 banks roughly, $100,000, we're talking about $800 million a year. $800 million year on year on year. Can we do something about it as a first step, right? We said, let's create this component called interoperability component, right? And we will use that interoperability component to first solve the backward compatibility problem. So we, through the cloud offering, will set up an interoperability component, send it to every enterprise that needs to do it, and ask them to spend the money on our interoperability component on the cloud within the robust, bulletproof, Swift environment that is already provided to the bank. So we're not going to create a new cloud just hanging out somewhere in the space. We want to use the bulletproof infrastructure that is already built by Swift, trusted by banks, to launch our first B2B business component. Now, that's obviously not the first thing, right? So we want to be able to use this platform to achieve a state of cash neutrality. We want to be able to, so we talked about $800 million, even at the worst, if you're able to hit 10% of the market, right? We're talking about 80. And that should be able to give us, within the first 6 months, some head start in terms of how we can build the next platform. The next stage is all about expansion, right? What do we want to do over here? We want to be able to move away from banks, which will be the major gainers in this space, to corporates, right? So today, the corporates have to deal with a whole bunch of financial statements that are sent to them by multiple, maybe 10, 15, 20 banks. Can we offer a service to corporates that will unify all those messages and be able to give them something that they can take it and just put it into their treasury or ERPs? That's number one. How do we move into BRIC countries? There are Brazil, Russia, India, China. There are so many banks. They have that fundamental connectivity to Swift. But can they connect every single one of their branches? Can they start doing cross-border transactions from every single branch or every single entity that they have? So we want to be able to provide this cloud for them to be able to create the maps that are required for them to send anything that they have today, and we will do the conversion to the latest and greatest standards and hit the Swift standard. So similarly, we were thinking of multiple things, but just let me come back to the point. Here, we are talking about creating services, point services, solving point problems. In this space, we are talking about creating something called orchestration. The banks or the corporates will be able to use a functionality of orchestrating these multiple services on the cloud to hit the Swift infrastructure directly. That's the second thing. The third thing is, I think before I go into the third, the simple example is people thought phone was a functionality that iPhone was intended to actually deliver. That was like a couple of years back. Today, the reality is there are 300,000 applications on the iPhone platform. And exactly the same concept. People thought backward compatibility is what we wanted to actually go with. But that's really the bait, right? We want to open this up, this platform, to the community, to the developers, to the banks, and to Swift and its competition, if it may be. So everybody is able to put in their stuff, like for example from Swift, Lazaro talked about sanctions. What about EBAM? We want to be able to make, the number one priority here is make the Swift offerings, right? If I may use this adjective, there is 5% of Swift offerings that are being used by 90% of the banks, giving you maybe 90% of your revenue. There is 95% of your innovation, which is not that easy to be adopted by the banks, easily, that would come from a cloud offering. So
thank you very much. Well done. Well done. We go to the venture capitalist advisors body. Please show me the money. See, medium, and no money. I'll talk to the two cloud guys here first. Oren, why no money?
The first phase doesn't make much sense to me at all because saving, Gary over there 100 grand, he won't even notice that. I mean, that's not even relevant. So I don't see how that's going to be terribly helpful. And the rest of it, I don't even know what it is. There's no, there's already a Swift net, so there's one cloud, then there's a picture of another cloud, and, message unification. It sounds like we would love to have this great thing where lots of nifty stuff happens, so there will be this great thing where lots of nifty stuff happens, and there's just nothing there.
Okay, Sean?
Yeah, no, I think I got a little bit more, I think, what they're trying to do. I think the reason why I did the cop-out middle money is that, you need to see if you can actually build it. But this idea of building a meta layer, compatibility layer in the payments stack seems quite interesting to me. There's a lot of innovation going on at the top. You've got a very, robust, secure, hard-wired plumbing bottom of Swift, and that universal bus layer seems to be missing in the stack. So, I have questions about how you could, can it be built and gaining traction, but it seems like an interesting idea to pursue further.
Okay. Excellent feedback. Back to the jury.
I fail to see, I understand sort of the concept, but I fail to see how you're going to save the cost for the banks, and most of the cost of the development sort of on the back-end side on our side. So how will this help us to reduce costs?
So the way we're going to do this is the banks are anyway spending their money, anywhere between 100K to $500,000 in doing the standard upgrades. What we want to do is we're going to give them two options. For the smaller ones, they can directly be able to route the messages directly to us. We will do the conversion on the cloud and send it to the Swift gateway. For the larger ones, we will do an on-premise deployment, but the deployment itself will be a zero-touch deployment. People will be able to come to the cloud, select a set of services that they want to select, the first one being backward compatibility. They'll be able to pull that down to their SAA, SAG platforms, and that gets deployed over there before your SAG.
Okay, one more.
Sorry, can I just add something to that, maybe for clarity? The purpose really was that we've got lots of processes going on out there in the Swift environment that are being repeated endlessly among the 8,000 banks. Yeah. So the idea was, let's get the process right once and let other companies tap into that process and do the conversion on their behalf, instead of repeating this thing every year across the 8,000 banks.
It really is.
Additionally, I'd like to add that the team itself has cloud deployment experience within financial services, particularly for implementing the PSD within the last 12 months. And what we'd like to say is a joint venture with Swift as a component partner is likely to be able to tap into our cloud and banking deployment expertise to be able to do it fast. Because we don't see any reason why in Toronto you can't be launching this.
Okay.
So 2050, next year.
One more, Gottfried.
Maybe a question on the revenue model. This would all be paid for by banks, I guess. Did you consider having it paid for by some of the vendors as a step up to sell other applications to these banks?
Yeah, absolutely. We have a revenue model for each of the phases. The first phase revenue model is simply by the banks. So their pain is 100,000. So we want to be able to at least go with 50K. The pain is $500,000, 50% of that, maybe for the first phase. For the second phase, since we're going to corporates, we want to be able to. So basically, it is per application. So here it is per message. It is here per map, and in this place it is per app, right? So the app could be from Temenos. It could be from any vendor, right? They want to be able to leverage the APIs that Swift provides, the other banks provide, and they want to be able to start putting their wares, which is today the on-premise option, onto this cloud platform.
Thank you very much. We are going to the applause meter. Tanya, have you fixed the bug? Yes? Okay. Really getting... okay, applause for this team. I think that's fair. Fair. I think that's fair. Okay. Thank you very much. Move away the panels. Thank you very much. Connexio. And let's see who will be...